We'll reconvene with our Community and Economic Development Committee and Michael Lillquist as chair.
Thanks, Roxanne. Joining me on the committee, thank you, Pinky. Joining me on the committee is Roxanne and Pinky Vargas. We have 4 items before us today. The first item is a report from the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. The Downtown Bellingham Partnership's Executive Director, Mr. Nick Hartrick, is here today, and he'll provide an update on the organization's current activities and future projects. The city does have 2 contracts with the partnership, one to help the downtown landscaping, and the other to promote economic development and support downtown. Mr. Hartrick.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? Well, you know, I love following Pooh. It's always makes me look good no matter what I'm going to present about. So thank you to Public Works. Yes, I'm the director of the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. My name is Nick Hartrick. Thank you for funding us all these glorious years at various levels. And I just want to give you a quick recap on what we've been doing this year. We've been an organization for 15 years, and it's changed drastically over that time, just as Downtown Bellingham has. But we've taken a bit of a different direction in the last year, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot has changed in this city, and you're going to see a lot of new ideas that we rolled out this year that have been getting outstanding, like off-the-charts community support. And I've seen several of you at these events, and I've seen several of these people at these events, so I think you know what we're talking about. But there is a renewed excitement going on in this community, and it has a lot to do with what the partnership's doing, but it has a lot to do with what several other organizations in town there's this confluence of urban renewal that's taking place. And just have to remind people that we are talking about providing new energy into our community, and it's a blend between old school and new school, but it's both in this case, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So January 1st, the Downtown Bellingham Partnership became a 501c3. We've been operating under a 501c3, not with a 501c3 status for the last 14 years. So this year, in our 15th year, we're pretty excited about that. It's also allowed us to participate in this Washington Main Street program. This is a program that's through the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. It used to live under the State Economic Development program, and they've bumped it into this. And this has allowed us to achieve some really sweet tax incentives. So any business in Washington State can donate to the Downtown Bellingham Partnership via their B&O tax. They can make a designated donation, and the state will give them a tax credit on their next year's tax break. So if you made a donation in 2015, you can get a 2016 tax credit. Kicks in right in January. So if you make a $1,000 donation, it comes back to you, $750 of that comes back at the beginning of 2016. I'll explain how this works, because this has opened us up to a whole new level of funding that's allowed us to explore some new programming. We kicked the year off with a design hackathon, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about how design influences cities. I've been working in urban renewal and green infrastructure and urban planning for about the last 12 years, and a lot of it falls back to good design and designing cities for people. And so I thought, well, we might need a new look. We've been looking a little dusty here. We were the city of zombies there. That was our old logo, if anybody remembers it. So we cranked a hackathon and invited the top design firms in downtown Bellingham to compete on a 3-hour create a new brand for downtown. And they came up with this new concept that we loved and ran with it. And it was a great way to get a logo, but there wasn't our mission. Our goal of that whole thing was to engage the design community and really open their eyes to what's happening downtown. And it's working. I'll explain how. We also, part of this process, we wanted to revamp our storefront window, which is right on 1310 Commercial Street across from Faith Life and Ishka Brandywine Kitchen in the parking garage. Someone had vandalized our window earlier in the year, and it was going to be an expensive replacement. So I popped in this wood-framed recycled window, thanks to Bellingham Bay Builders, and Chuck and Bay Builders built a coffee bar in there from the 20th Century Bowling Alley. So I work with this window open about 7 months of the year, and it is bizarre how much it's changed foot traffic and people engaging with our storefront. So this is just one experiment that we tried to just get people to stop and say hello. I I invite people in, and they have got the most obscure questions to people like Michael and, well, both Michaels there that could come by at any moment. So it's been fun. It's been a great experiment. So I welcome you to come by our office anytime. Kapow, obviously the placemaking competition, which we launched in January, which I think all of you are familiar about, but Sustainable Connections, the City of Bellingham, and the Downtown Bellingham Partnership pitched this project. We didn't know what we were going to get. We wanted as many cool conceptual designs about making less active spaces functional parts of our community. And we got over 55 designs, and we took the top 4. We filled the Mount Baker Theater, the lower level anyway, and we had one of these outstanding community moments. It makes you proud to be a Bellinghamster. And we moved forward on several of those projects, which I will talk about. So back to designers. We pitched, we do these we do these monthly Downtown Neighborhood Association meetings we've been doing forever. We typically hold them at the Leopold, and they typically get hijacked by the residents there. And I thought I love the Leopold, and I love the residents there, but we need to get a full snapshot of what the businesses are doing downtown. So we still host those. We hold them on a quarterly basis, and I'll talk about those. But I wanted to engage the business community downtown, and specifically the creatives. When we talk about the creative class in a community, we talk about the designers and the entrepreneurs and the people that are trying to drive economic vitality in communities like Portland, Oregon, and Seattle and Vancouver. I want to keep those people here. I don't want them to move to LA or New York or Portland or Seattle. I want them to stay in Bellingham. And in order to stay in Bellingham, we've got to create a city that they want to be in. So I started hosting these monthly morning jams. It's a monthly toast to the creative class. So we bring in an inspirational speaker to talk about some form of design in an urban experience. And the theme changes once a month. They're very well attended. We hold them at the Pickford Film Center. We get about between 40 and 55 people once a month. We have a toast bar. And if you don't know what that is, you should come check it out. So what we do at these monthly design jams, I throw a design challenge out. And I say, hey, if you're into this, here's a project I'm working on with the City of Bellingham right now. The city's talking about doing new crosswalks down Holly Street in 4 intersections. Do you want to get creative with some design concepts? Let's see if Public Works goes for it. So Roman Mars did this great TEDx talk about how city flags are the worst thing in the world that are designed, and we should do something about that. So we pitched this design challenge, and we had 10 designers submit flags for Bellingham, and we let the design community choose one. They all had these 4 themes of bay to the mountains to representing the 4 different original cities of Bellingham and Whatcom, Seaholm, and Fairhaven. And I let the design community choose. This is like a non-official city flag, but we're working with a distributor right now to print them so we can have them downtown. And again, the design community has been overwhelmed with having influence on this community. We've also provided a lot of support for Public Works, Katie Frank's department in planning on the State Street redesign. 3 different areas we're participating in: State Street redesign, downtown landscape improvements like the Ballard project that Freeman Anthony's working on, and a parking garage, the Commercial Street parking garage improvement. So I'll meet with Public Works. And as one of our 4 pillars of Main Street, we have a design committee. So not only am I sourcing great design ideas from the designers themselves, I take the best 6 and I put them on a design committee, and we help influence the city's flow on wayfinding and downtown design concepts. It's a good filter, right? Because we're representing the businesses down here that do that. Is all this making sense so far? Yeah? Okay. Am I losing you? Do I have you? Okay, good. Okay. We hosted the Revitalize Washington Conference this year, which, again, was through the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. So 250 people were in town for 4 days. We were showing off our city, and I connect with all these managers of all these other cities, right? There's 32 cities, Main Street communities in Washington State, and there's for smaller communities like Port Townsend and Cle Elum and Sequim, and I'm telling you, we are killing it out there. We are doing awesome things. And it's nice. They're doing great things, too, but having those 250 leaders in Bellingham for those 3 days was really sweet. They got to see how we're doing it, and we're doing a really good job. Okay, we started hosting these I put a creative spin on the Downtown Neighborhood Association meetings because they were getting a little stale. So we combined forces for National Night Out with the Pickford Film Center on the rooftop cinema for Back to the Future. And this guy that we've got working for us at the city, Officer Eric Osterkamp, is the most heartwarming, awesome police officer in the entire world. And he let me run around with his Hug a Cop sign, and my goal was to get him 300 hugs by the end of the night, and we did. And his other police officer buddies showed up, and they were not interested in hugging anybody. It's like you can see the difference. This guy is critical to bridging down that safety gap between what people's perception is that's happening downtown and what the reality is. And if you just make eye contact with anybody downtown and smile, you will get a smile back more times out of 10 than the people that we think we would be fearful of. I'm trying to get people in business suits to smile at me, and they can't even make eye contact. So he's been a very instrumental part in making downtown safe, and I think a very warm community. So we still got a lot of perceptions to work on. Wine Walk was one of our most outrageous events, sold out. It combined retail with another favorite thing that we do, which is drink wine. But this is why this event worked. Yes, everybody loves to drink in Bellingham, mostly beer, but the retail community loved this event. Sales off the charts. Businesses are telling us it's their busiest night in downtown, and they're not open typically past 6 p.m. So we want to repeat this event. It's great. Art Walk obviously is one of our most successful events. It brings a couple thousand people downtown every Friday, the first Friday of the month. Also, I don't know if you see that we were ranked as in one of the top 10 downtowns for livability. I think we have a lot to do with that as a community. Parks and Rec approached me this year at the beginning of the year and says, we need some help with Maritime. And I said, okay, well then you're going to let me just do my thing here because we need to bring some people down there. So I started with businesses. And I threw this thing called Throwback Thursdays, which was an Bellingham's first urban kickball event. And I engaged 4 industries, bicycle manufacturers and makers, the brewers in the community, the builders in this community, and the brains, which are the designers and university, some professors. So 4 teams, 4 industry teams playing at Maritime every Thursday. They would bring their families down, they would bring their kids down, and I would hear parents repeatedly say, with their kids there, saying, I don't even consider coming to this park. Like, I never think about coming to Maritime. And that's exactly the right type of behavior we're trying to change. And this is one of those things that doing it. And thanks to Mayor Kelly for the inaugural first pitch. I will tell you a really warm story. We did this a second league. We did 2 leagues. We did summer and spring. And people are having the most fun of any people in any park I've ever seen, and we formed a team this summer league called the Bleeding Hearts, and the Bleeding Hearts was a team of service providers from the Opportunity Council, Northwest Youth Services, and their clients, people that live in the park, people that frequent the mission. And this was like the most Disney story you could have ever expected, but like we're talking, the team has not won a single game all season. They're 0-5 going in the finals, and they all played their hearts out. They won. They won this game, and one guy he's wearing his blanket because that's what he usually wears in the park, and he caught this fly ball with his blanket. And to me, that's like we're making progress here. And I know it's ridiculous, but that's part of what we have to do to bridge these gaps and break down the fear that this park is something that it really isn't. It's beautiful. So we want to continue this. And these people are pretty much doing it on their own. I can't stop them from coming down there. We host a lot of events that engage the retailers, like I was saying, the Sidewalk Sale, Shop Small Saturday. These are great events to engage people with the retail community downtown. That's really important. How many people were down? Did you even catch this thing, the Color Run? Yeah, there were 5,000 people running around like idiots downtown, and we love that. It's beautiful. It's great. Obviously, Makeshift is a huge organization in downtown, bringing block parties right to our city center. We like that. We partnered with the Roller Betties to do a downtown throwdown in front of the public market. Again, events happening in unusual spaces. This is what makes cities pretty fun. Probably the most recognizable event that we do, Downtown Sounds, where finally people are starting to connect the dots that the partnership is putting these on, which we love. This was our largest Downtown Sounds to date. We're hoping to close Prospect Street next year and expand on it. We host a lot of events downtown. I don't know if you know this. We host about 84 events in a year. And our attendance is about 60,000, and that's a lot of people coming downtown. I could double that. I could double that number with a little more funding. Okay. We're just getting started here. We're just getting started. Okay, so obviously we got a grant to expand the Levitt series, the Downtown Sounds series. We've never been able to apply for grants because we've never been a 501c3. We've got that designation now. We're going after grants slowly but surely, but it allowed us to expand our 5-week concert series into Maritime Heritage Park, and your Parks and Rec department and Amanda Grove did awesome. You know, you're not a marketing agency. You're not a brand agency. You don't promote things very well. It's not your job to do that. Let us handle that for you. And this was a starter year for a concert. When Downtown Sound started, we started in the alley. We probably had 300 or 400 people. So the fact that this concert only had 200, 300 people every week is okay. It's okay. We're going to start somewhere. So again, my focus are these people right here. I mean, I think getting kids downtown is super important because it brings the families downtown. And however we do that, when the kids are downtown, the parents are spending money, and it's wonderful. We need more children downtown. Okay, night market. Thanks to Dean Faring and his crazy antics for pulling this out for Kapow. This is like the pinnacle Kapow event that we brought forward and revitalized. Dean had nothing to do with the execution. I just need to make that very clear, that Dean was all the brains, none of the muscle. He did help, actually. But thanks to Sustainable Connections and the Downtown Bellingham Partnership, this event just blew my mind. We thought we would get 2,000 or 3,000 people on the first night market night, and this happened the first Friday in September all the way to the first Friday in October, and we had probably between 5,000 and 6,000 people, we estimate, on that first night. It was crazy. Crazy. So crazy that Ishka Irish Pub tells us that it dominated their largest sales all night, which is typically St. Paddy's Day. Brandywine Kitchen told us that they increased profits by 30% on that night. Taco Lobo ran out of food. This is economic development, all right? This is what we're trying to do. We're finally doing it. I think we're finally doing it. And a lot of this has happened in the last year, okay? We had 25 vendors every week. We're going to try to continue the night market indoors for one more week in November. This art walk coming up November 6th, I think it is. We're going to bring that inside Hatch. Obviously, the Bite of Bellingham, another crazy event. This event proved to me that people will come out in the rain in Bellingham. They're not scared of the rain. They're scared of the wind, though. The wind people don't like here. So 5,000 people come downtown to eat from 30 different vendors. It's a pretty sweet event. I just love that this community comes out regardless of rain or shine. Okay, for those of you that have had your head in the dirt for the last 6 months, 4 months actually, Hatch only launched 4 months ago, which you approved because Hatch is a vacancy to vitality business incubator. I've heard of plenty of incubators, and I've heard of plenty of pop-up retail shops, but I've never heard of the Confluence, so we thought, what the heck, let's try it. And in the last 4 months, we've done some pretty incredible things. In fact, let me see if I can even get this thing going. If I can show you a little video, I got, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but.
Incubator based out of Bellingham, Washington, that has been created through a partnership with the Downtown Bellingham Partnership, but also the Idea Institute at Western Washington University. I think what really rings true for Hatch is the whole concept of allowing someone who's an entrepreneur or small business owner to give their idea or their business or their product or service a shot in the marketplace without having to risk it all. And I think that if people can get the idea that they can start a business that will be supported by their community rather than themselves having to put everything on the line, that could really inspire a lot of people, and I think that can make some cool change.
Okay, that's Dylan Green. He's this all-star I found out of the entrepreneurship program at Western, and that's what Hatch is. It's a partnership with the Idea Institute, which is the Interdisciplinary Entrepreneurs in Action. It's a partnership with the SBDC and the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. We had some other partners jump in there, and it's been fantastic. This is something that it just blew up in the media world here locally, and our goal is to, one, fill a vacancy downtown, we moved into 1302 Commercial. It's been vacant for 4 years. It's the old Stamp and Coin. 2 is to fill that vacancy with some sort of activity. In our case, it's growing new entrepreneurs and hosting events. And 3 is to incubate new businesses, grow new businesses. And when we started our first 2 businesses this month, this was our ribbon cutting back in September. And we did a call for applications. We got 16 people applied to be part of our business incubator. And we've started our first 2. The Bellingham Folk Music School started just this month, and Willowed Yoga, which is a yoga instructor, Adrian, also started this month. And so we know this will grow. We've got 6 businesses that we want to launch ultimately, but lo and behold, we found a tenant for the space, so now we've got to move, which is great because that was part of one of our goals. So we like to think that because of 4 years of vacant storefront activity downtown, that because of Hatch, we found a tenant. We're not the only reason that that person came in, but they did come in because of an event that we hosted. So here's a little snapshot on how we're funded. Okay, yeah, I've got to wrap it up. Okay, well, we'll just jump right over that then since I'm kidding. So a third of our funding comes from you, comes from an operations contract, like a landscaping contract. A third of our funding comes from events that we host and sponsors. And this is where we engage the business community, right? They pay for these things. They pay for these types of events downtown because they see a direct correlation. This last third, the lower left third of that chart, is brand new. That's our Main Street contribution, which is at risk of going away, always at risk of going away. When they started the program, the cap was 1.5 million, and they had 12 cities. Now the cap is still 1.5 million, and they have 32 cities applying for the same funding. So it doesn't mean that we're going to get this 75,000 next year. We raised that in 3 months, so we can hit twice that cap if we had a little bit more muscle on the ground. So I just think this is important to call out. Between public and private investment, you've invested over $270 million in the last 15 years, since our organization has been around since 2000. I think that's an awesome number to celebrate. To think about how far we've come in the last 15 years, it's incredible. We just launched the parking story with Public Works that I would love to tell you about in more detail, but we're going to change the perception of parking downtown. That's our goal, is to not build new parking unless we absolutely need it, but to work with the existing infrastructure that we have and to let people know that there is a parking garage. I don't think people know that or know how to park in it yet, but we're working on that. Okay, that slide's in there twice. We're bringing Shawnette Corkhill, all-star retailer, window dressing person. Downtown needs some help. So we were launching this project called Front Door Back, and we're funding this out of the Main Street funds. And Front Door Back is a retail enhancement program. We throw $5,000 into the kitty. We get a retailer downtown to match that, and we make business improvements to their storefronts. So downtown can start feeling a little bit more like we're a connected community of businesses and not one-offs with signs that are unattractive. Okay. So we're also bringing Robert Spector here, which we sold this event out November 10th, and he's going to talk about customer service and your urban experiences. He's great. We think we're launching this, believe it or not. This came out of Kapow. This is the Urban Fern Kingdom. We think this is still going to happen. Public Works has said they would fund a portion of it, and we'd like to see it happen. It's just there's not enough hours in the day right now. Okay, this is the super cool one. I think everybody's going to dig. Tim, the weekly should be covering this stuff, by the way. This is Syncrotricity. This came out of Kapow. So we intend to see this thing funded and installed in early December. We'll have 30 lights downtown, 30 trees downtown with 6 to 8 lights apiece, all pedestrian activated. So human beings walking on the street, not cars, can wave around, and these trees will speak to each other, and they can be up year-round if we want. We probably will leave them up year-round. This is going to be super cool. There's going to be no community on earth that does this. I pitched this at the Main Street managers meeting, and I was getting inundated with how do we do this in our city, and I just said, no, this is our city is doing this. This is happening this Friday. 2,000 kids come downtown for trick-or-treat. Again, kids downtown, good. Actually, I should say this is our largest business participation event at all. We hear from law firms. We don't even talk to us year-round. This is a great way for us to engage businesses because they love engaging the families. We're partnering with the city on this event and the farmers market for a pop-up celebration on December 4th. Tree lighting, all that good stuff. We do beautification and landscaping downtown, but you know what? We need to examine that contract with you because we're not doing a great job. It's grossly underfunded, and we need to fund that thing. If you want us to do it, we got to talk about expanding the contract, or we need to put the contract in somebody else's hands. Because downtown's 249 acres. It's huge. And we've got a guy and a half doing this. So I just love this. You should fund this. And this is the last slide. I just want you to read this and just know that we're working our ass off for you right now, and we're going to continue to do this work. And we would love to continue our funding. I don't even think we have to worry about funding next year because I think we're in a 2-year cycle. So we're good, I think. Yeah. Yeah. But landscaping is not, and I would love for you to evaluate that, okay? Because it needs help. We don't necessarily need to be the ones to do it. We would consider doing it under slightly renewed terms, but I don't think you're discussing that today. So that's all I got. Thank you. Oh, I guess when you have any questions.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you, Nick. Excellent presentation. I've been on the board of the partnership for the last 4 years, and it really has undergone a transformation. It came through some hard times financially. It started out 15 years ago as a Renaissance Foundation, or Renaissance Partnership, when the downtown really needed waking up. As you say, the downtown is awake right now, and you're doing your part and the partnership to increase that. I think of you somewhat as an untamed pet. You do things, and the private sector does things that the city isn't necessarily good at doing and shouldn't necessarily do. So I think the partnership really is a good partnership, not just between business owners and residents downtown, but between the city and the private sector. And so I do appreciate what you do. It pushes the comfort level, and I think that's a good idea sometimes. Some ideas won't work, but many ideas will, and I think that's the value of the partnership. Committee members. Pinky.
I just wanted to say thank you. I think you've done a tremendous job, and the partnership has really brought some great vitality. I've gone to a lot of these events this year, and it's wonderful when I have guests coming to tell them, oh, this is what we're going to do tonight, and a lot of them have to do with the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Any other council members? Okay, Mr. Hardrick, thank you very much. Oh, on a final note, on the landscaping contract, I have begun discussions with the administration on the contract renewal. Okay, next item on our agenda is a presentation on the Home Buyer Partnership, which will be with the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Mr. Stahlheim, shall I turn the presentation over to you to begin with?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Stahlheim from Community Development.
Thank you. David Stahlheim, Block Grant Manager with the city. It's a pleasure to be here. It's not, unlike Nick, he got to follow the biosolids conversation. I get to follow Nick. So, so we'll try to make this interesting and quick for you. This is a new partnership that I'm quite excited about with the Housing Finance Commission. Over the last 5 years, I've been at the city. If you actually Google HUD in Bellingham, you get my phone number. And so, and I get some very strange phone calls at times, but a lot of them are questions about homebuyer programs, about how to participate in getting assistance to be a homebuyer in Bellingham. And we've enjoyed the great partnership with Culshan Community Land Trust for quite a few years. Not sure the exact number of years, but we have well over 100 houses in the land trust thanks to our partnership with the Culshan Community Land Trust. But not everyone always wants to just do the land trust model. Some people are interested in getting assistance with being a low-income home buyer. And so I was getting those phone calls at the same time, and I'll introduce also Carla Lee is a residential loan officer with Banner Bank here. Carla is also on Culshan's board. Carla called and asked, said, why isn't the city also offering another home buyer program that is offered through the Housing Finance Commission in several other communities throughout the state? And so I contacted the Housing Finance Commission, and sitting next to me is Karen Carlson Bunce. And Karen, I worked with them to develop this program concept here that we're kind of presenting to you. We're working out the details of that program. But what it is unlike it would be complementary to the land trust program, but these would be non-resale restricted programs. And what it would be is that we wouldn't offer as much money as we do for land trust homes because people could sell the homes to whoever they wanted to. They wouldn't have to be low-income home buyers. However, they would have to pay us back our funds with interest. And so unlike in the resale or the land trust program, those funds kind of stay in the home. We don't see the money coming back. In this case, we'll get 3% interest in this program, and we'll get that money back and recycle into affordable housing programs. The really interesting thing about this program is that the housing levy actually has the city's limits at $35,000 for a land trust program and $30,000 for a non-land trust program. This great deal that we have here is we're actually lowering how much we're going to put in from $30,000 down to $25,000. But then we have the commission just approved this last week an additional $15,000, so we're actually getting up to $40,000 of funding. So whereas the program normally would only offer $30,000, we're actually now able to offer $40,000, of which our contribution amount goes down. And to make things even better, the city will not have to do any of the administrative requirements for this program because the Housing Finance Commission will take over the entire administrative responsibility for both of these programs, all the loan underwriting, things like that, which will free up a lot of staff time that we have. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Karen to kind of talk about the Housing Finance Commission real quickly.
Thank you, David.
Push that button.
Okay, thank you, David. I'm on. Okay. So good afternoon. I'm Karen Carlson Bunce, and I'm a program administrator, and I do business development and communications for the Homeownership Division at the Commission. David asked me to speak just a little bit about the Commission and who we are and what we do, in case you haven't heard of us before. The Housing Finance Commission is a self-sustaining state agency, which means we rely on no public dollar to sustain ourselves. We're self-sustaining. In fact, we actually generated enough revenue from our programs to put back into our revolving fund, which we use to fund things such as down payment assistance. We offer a first mortgage program similar to a secondary lender, which we call the Home Advantage program. Lenders lock their first mortgage loan with us, and because the borrower uses our first mortgage loan, they have access then to one of our current 11 down payment assistance programs. These lenders are trained and participating lenders, and they actually will handle everything on our behalf. Because we are a state agency, we don't do a direct loan to the public, so these lenders actually pretty much assume all the risk and responsibility initially. They will originate these loans, both the first mortgage and the down payment assistance, and because they've been trained, they will actually fund and close these loans in their name. We actually have a master servicer that we contract with, and our master servicer then buys those loans back from the lender, and we reimburse the lender for both the first mortgage and the down payment assistance. And then those loans do stay with our servicer, and they're serviced just like any other mortgage loan. We do not sell our loans again. They stay with our servicer, which right now is Service Solutions out of Alabama. Service Solutions actually is the servicing arm of the Alabama Housing Finance Authority. They are a housing finance agency just like we are for Alabama. So they're mission driven. Instead of kind of the big bank idea, they're more about working with borrowers, and we've had just great responses from our homeowners that use that make their payments to Service Solutions from us. And because of this agreement with our service master servicer, we actually pay them to service those first mortgage loans, and for that they actually service the seconds for free. So that's how we're able to administer these programs and not charge any administration costs to our partners. And we do these deferred second mortgages at low % interest rates, due in 30 years. Nobody else would want to service these loans, so we're kind of the ones that'll do it through our first mortgage program is, again, how we are able to do this. Because of this, our mortgage programs have grown tremendously, especially over the last couple of years. We average over $100 million a month in first mortgage loans alone. And again, we use any revenue that we make off of those loans to just turn around and put it back into our programs as a state agency. As an agency, we have a great deal of experience administering funds for down payment assistance. We've done home and CDBG and NSP, our little alphabet soup here, ADDI funds, and we actually administer the City of Seattle's levy funds for home buyers and Federal Home Loan Bank and so on. Currently, we do partner with the City of Tacoma, Pierce County, the City of Seattle, City of Bremerton, King County, 15 East Side cities, and previously we've partnered with Federal Way, Outlying King County, Department of Commerce, So you can see we've got quite a bit of experience administering funds, especially for down payment assistance around homeownership programs. So I included in your packet there a copy of the Tacoma brochure, and I believe that David had also provided our program for our ARCH, which is the east side of King County. We plan that the Bellingham program will be modeled similar to the way we do our other partnership down payment programs, and so I'll kind of give you an idea of what that would look like. A year ago, we launched our partnership program with the City of Tacoma. They had also been operating their own down payment assistance program for over 20 years. But due to administrative costs and decreased funding, they actually approached the Commission and asked about partnering also. It took a couple months to build the pipeline once we launched the program. But after we closed our first loan, which we've actually done just over 12 months now, we've closed 23 of these down payment programs for the City of Tacoma. So continuing to use the down payment, City of Tacoma down payment program as an example, the transition went really well with the City of Tacoma to the Commission. The Commission requires folks to actually work with these trained and participating lenders, which I mentioned earlier, and then use our first mortgage rate. We do not offer a standalone second mortgage. As I explained earlier, again, our second mortgages are tied to our first mortgages because our servicer, again, will service those seconds for free as long as we're paying them to service the first mortgage. This is how, again, we're able to offer these low rates and deferred mortgages with no administrative fees or costs. And again, there's really no cost to the borrowers either, so everybody's kind of winning on that perspective. Luckily, most of our lenders that have worked with the Bellingham funds that you already have are also lenders that participate in our program, such as Banner Bank and Carla Lee. We also require a minimum 620 FICO score, and we do not allow borrowers to have more than a 45% back-end ratio is what we call it. That's the combination of their proposed house payment with all their other debt. So we actually have some kind of restrictions to kind of make sure folks are mortgage ready and in a good place before they get into home ownership. And so our participating lenders understand all of our requirements and forms, and so we really feel because we've got a lot of good experience and great partnerships that there shouldn't be too much of a learning curve taking over and administering funds here in the City of Bellingham. As was mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if you mentioned, but this is actually going to look like a two-prong down payment assistance program. So we're going to be offering this Bellingham down payment assistance program to folks meeting the requirements in the open market. We'll also be administering $150,000 for the City of Bellingham for folks purchasing the resale restricted properties. And so we know that folks typically will most likely be working with Colshan Community Land Trust. So while there's no plans to actually match those funds, we're going to allow folks to actually layer their down payment assistance, the Colshan folks to layer with another one of our down payment programs. So actually it'll be a greater match. It can be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 and maybe even more match behind the $35,000 for the land trust. So again, we have a great deal of experience with working with all the land trusts around the state of Washington. We've actually assisted over 50 families just here with Colshan Community Land Trust in the last 10 years with our down payment assistance program, so we feel this will be a great way to continue that partnership. So I kind of threw together a few little stats here for you. Thought kind of interesting to see what we were currently doing here with our homeownership programs in the City of Bellingham. We've actually closed 100 first mortgage loans just in the last 15 months currently with our program here in the city limits, the City of Bellingham. And the average loan amount has been $226,984. The average second mortgage or down payment program has been $8,972. So note that our current income limits on our Home Advantage program go up to $97,000 for household income statewide. So this program will obviously have much lower income limits because of the limitations on the funds. So this will be kind of a nice way to help folks that haven't been able to get into home ownership, kind of bridge that gap, especially when we're talking about a $40,000 gap basic subsidy to help them get into home ownership. Currently, again, with our program, our average sales price that we've been seeing is $238,000. Again, here in the City of Bellingham, average income's been $61,910. So that is a little bit higher than what you would typically see for a 80% and below area median income. So I think our current portfolio of what we see in the City of Bellingham is a little bit more reflective of your market, so that gaps subsidy gap will be very beneficial to those folks that have been priced out or continue to be priced out of the market here in the city of Bellingham. From what we've seen of your average median sales price, they really have been going up. Maybe because of downtown revitalization. That's awesome. That presentation was great. So we'll be doing marketing. We'll be working with David to make sure, again, we'll do brochures. We'll, come up and do presentations as necessary. I know that you folks already have a great presence in your community, so anything the commission can do on that perspective. Again, we do have that luxury of being a statewide agency, so maybe folks are thinking that, they wanted to be in Bellingham, but they're priced out, and then this program comes out. So maybe this is something that will either help them, or maybe they were thinking about moving here and didn't think there was a way they could live here. So this could be very beneficial, again, for folks that maybe didn't even know that there was down payment programs out there. So we do anticipate launching pretty soon in the next few weeks. So we'll be working with David on the manual and the forms and the disclosures and the marketing. I know that Colshan's already trained on our programs, and they provide a lot of housing counseling already for a lot of their clients and some of our clients also for some of our programs, like our one. We have one for folks with a disability, so they've just been a great partner in helping folks get mortgage ready, get ready for home ownership. So we'll continue to partner with them for the required additional counseling and homebuyer education in this community. So any questions?
Karen, thank you. Committee members? Roxanne?
I really thank you for this presentation. I had the chance to work with Tacoma's down payment assistant program, and oh boy, it was fun to make those connections with the community. That was the continual challenge, though, was trying to find enough applicants so that the program could succeed and help the community members. So I'd be happy to lend my support for how we did community outreach and any creative ideas, especially to get to the underserved communities that we need to support. But yeah, anything we can do to get the word out about it, it's just the long term, that was the major issue, was just getting the applicants.
Yeah, well, we took on, that's why I used the city of Tacoma since it was the most recent. But it took a little bit of time, a few months, to get kind of up and running, especially that transition. Folks had been used to going directly to the city. But boy, we're just going crazy now. Like I said, we've done almost 24 just in the last 12 months. So that's been an average of 2 loans a month that we've been closing in the city. Once it got going, the word got out, our phone's been ringing. We just took over Pierce County's funds a couple months ago, and we already have 3 loans in the pipe. So we were starting to worry. A couple months had gone by. We're like, why aren't our phones ringing? Oh, well, what you wish for. So, yeah, that'd be great.
Also, a little bit in answer to your question, too, is as we started kind of thinking about this program, I actually met with the realtors as part of this and looking at marketing it. And so part of Carla Lee at Banner Bank and other folks. And so we're definitely going to get the word out through the realtors and the banker network about this. It is a little bit of a fine balance, too, because we only have enough funding to do potentially only 6 homes in this new program. And so we don't want to overmarket it as well, kind of thing. So we definitely want people to come in, but we only have so much money in the pot that we can help fund these things. So.
Pinky?
Oh, I just wanted to say I think this is a really great opportunity and allows us to expand and get more families into homes sooner. So thank you for bringing a great idea forward, Carla.
Dan?
I'm just wondering how rising home costs would affect this program's sustainability for the future.
Yeah, we've taken a look at that, and it definitely has an issue, and I think we have to look at that. I think there's a couple things. One is that we're restricted through the HUD funds, and right now we're going to use levy funds to start this out, but through the HUD funds, we can only purchase homes at the 95% of area median or of median sales price in the community, and that's $263,000. And one of the challenges of Bellingham with affordable housing and income is that Bellingham is, they call it Bellingham, but it's all of Whatcom County. And so we see income and rent levels and housing prices being not consistent with what we're actually seeing in Bellingham. The good news is that what we can do, particularly with the levy, is that we can go and do more recent analysis, and we don't have to wait for HUD to do that. And so we're working with the assessor to go get the median purchase prices, and so we'll try to adjust that so that we, as prices go up, we can adjust what those levels are. So that will help, but it doesn't help with the side of the income thing, because if incomes don't go up with that, it may not be there. So that's a challenge, but we've looked at it. If there is an issue with still not having enough subsidy in the program, again, part of the great deal of this is that the levy allows $30,000 per home for this. We're only starting out at $25,000. If we do find that we're having a need for additional subsidy, we can go back up and bump that up again, and look at additional subsidy necessary.
That's why it was interesting when I ran the numbers on our current portfolio, just to kind of see what we were seeing out of the city of Bellingham with our current program. Even though we can go to $97,000 for income, and we don't really have an acquisition limit on our Home Advantage program, but the average price was $238. So folks are finding homes, especially 100, that average median price here in the city. And then the income, to me, what's really did reflect that was the problem, because our income was $61,000, which it'll be lower. So I think $40,000 might just be that right sweet spot. I hope, based on what we're seeing here in the market.
Jack?
Thanks, Michael. I guess I'm just following up on what Dan was talking about. Just the resale. Well, I guess one question was, how many people through the years of this program, what kind of percentage are you seeing of people wanting to do resale? If getting out of the program, having to repay back into the revolving loan fund. What percentage is that? And I guess, and then it gets into the question that Dan's talking about, is that if during that time the prices have escalated or appreciated a lot, are we in kind of a death spiral when it comes to the I guess the ability to use that money most efficiently?
Yes. So again, the difference in this new expanded program is that we actually will get 3% interest, so we will grow our money. In the current program, it's 0% interest, so we never see any of that money come back at all. So the question is a little bit is if real estate does go up more than 3%, then yeah, we're going to go a little bit backwards, but we're actually going to get money that goes back into the program that would help first-time home buyers again get into some housing stock, build equity in their home, and do all the other things that's a positive benefit from the home buyer program. But certainly, if housing prices go up more than 3%, yeah, we're not going to be making all that money back, but we're not making it back in the existing program, and that's really not the goal and the intent, I guess, as part of this program.
But isn't the existing program through Culshan, isn't that permanent, in perpetuity as far as the affordability?
Well, there's a covenant that requires it to be sold to someone, but that does not necessarily mean in all cases that there's not additional subsidy that goes back into that house to make it affordable. Because as those homes appreciate in value, they have a limit on how much it can appreciate in value, 1% plus any capital improvements. But it could get to the point where there actually has to be the portfolio of home buyers actually requires some subsidy in it. Not in all cases, but in quite a few cases, there's additional subsidy that goes back in to keep it affordable.
Okay, last question, if I may.
Go ahead.
With you had mentioned that at least with Culshan, there would be a blended type of program for the down payment. Using some of the state money as well as the other money that you provide, David. Is it a situation that if a Culshan homeowner uses both pots of those monies and lives in the house for a few years and then wants to resell, is there going to be a requirement to go and pay back the state's money given the fact that the home is still in perpetuity affordable?
Yes, we do require repayment back on our programs. We actually have done a lot of work with the various land trusts around the state. It's interesting that the city of Bellingham has a similar, I don't want to say demographic, but for lack of a better word, to the city of Seattle's program. We administer their levy funds for down payment assistance, and we also do a lot of work with their homestead community land trusts up there, and we actually require repayment back. What's interesting, and maybe the folks at Culshan could speak to it too, is the folks actually stay in their homes. Well, we anticipate, yes, those that maybe will prosper and be able to obtain another employment, or because of their family situation, the home's too small and they need to move on. But for the majority of these folks, they actually stay in their homes. Our average time in the homes typically in our program is 5 to 7 years, but most of the land trusts that work with our programs and our program for folks with a disability, because they're very limited income, they end up just staying in their home. They don't really, we have several different programs we administered for various land trusts around the state, and the majority of the folks in that portfolio are still in their home. We only had a couple sales. Unlike a lot of our other programs, they want to stay there. It's affordable and things are pricing out around them, but they're comfortable. So
the important part of that, though, is that that's existing program that already exists, so we're not changing anything. So of all those 50 loans that they've already done with Culshan Homes, that's what's required right now. The same thing. When the funds come back in, what it will do is it comes back into it comes back to the commission. The commission tells us it's there, and then we just give them money back, and it goes back into the home. So it's like a circular closing. So the dollars will be available again for a resale. That won't be problematic at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Karen, thank you very much. We're running out of time, but I want to ask a few questions to make sure I understand this. You already have an ongoing program, and what we're doing is we're adding kind of a new sub-part of your program with housing levy monies, which will have slightly different income requirements potentially, but you'll administer it much as you do now, but with different income requirements. Is that an accurate summary?
Same income. Yeah, I mean, when she talked to some of the program, those are not low income. Those are not 80% AMI or below.
Right, whereas ours would be correct and restricted.
Currently, we have 11 different down payment programs. So we usually take the most restrictive guidelines.
Okay.
So we have programs that serve that more median income market, and then we have those that go down into much lower income, like our 80% area median income programs, which will look like the city of Bellingham's. Our Seattle program's also 80%. Our ARCH program, the brochure's the city of Tacoma. So we just have more restrictive guidelines. As the income gets lower, they get more subsidy.
Okay.
There's a bigger amount of money.
And so we'll hear a little bit later about the Bellingham Housing Levy, and one of those components is the home buyer assistance. Is that the source of this money? Is that one home buyer assistance component?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, it says the HFC will be taking over some administration of the resale restricted, the land trust sales now that the city is currently doing. And have we talked with those entities and they're comfortable with that shift in administration?
Yeah, we've had this conversation in these two different programs, and it's actually quite streamlined for everyone involved, because now they'll just go to the bank basically and go through the loan closing with the bank, and won't have to wait for 8 signatures at City Hall for any of the loan documents. So.
Okay, good. And I must say, this is easy to understand. I think I understood the Tacoma program at a glance. If we could have a similar brochure, I think that'd be wonderful. Any other questions?
They will develop that marketing brochure for us, just like that. Yeah. For nothing.
Any other questions for Karen or David? Thank you very much.
All right.
Our next item is a presentation on the Urban Village redevelopment incentives. This is a follow-up. We've had several meetings on this before. The City Council directed staff to implement certain financial incentives for urban development. Staff will provide a brief update on the status of 3 of those financial incentives that will be brought forward to the Council for final action in next month, I believe. Mr. Stahlheim, is it you again?
It's me.
It's Tara.
He's helping me with the
Ms. Sundin?
equipment there. Yes, thank you. Tara Sundin, Planning and Community Development Department. Just a quick update on some work that we have been doing over the last few months. If you recall, in May, you directed staff to pursue, I'm sorry, I thought this would blow up a little bit bigger, pursue all of these incentives, financial and non-financial incentives, and we've got, I say 3, it's because we've combined 2 of those incentives for you, but we have the B&O tax reduction and the multifamily tax exemption program. We're amending that program, as well as permit fee reductions and the system development charges reductions. Those 2, it's the permit fees and the SDCs that we're combining into one ordinance. So you will be seeing 3 of our financial incentives coming to you on November 16th. So we just wanted to remind you that we had received that direction from you and to kind of get you thinking about those ahead of time. So again, the B&O tax reduction, that'll be new to Bellingham, to the city of Bellingham. And we will be recommending that we pursue this reduction in downtown, Old Town, the waterfront, Samish Way, and Fountain districts. And in those areas, for any new to Bellingham business, they don't have to be a brand new business, but new to our community, they'll receive a 100% reduction for the first year in business in one of those areas, a 75% reduction for their second year, and a 50% reduction for their third year. The multifamily tax exemption program we have in place in downtown, Old Town, Samish, and Fountain districts. This is a program that exempts a property from paying property taxes for a certain period of time. The state of Washington allows us to implement this program. We are recommending that we expand the program to Barclay Village and Fairhaven, but for the affordable housing component only. So the state lets us exempt market rate housing for a period of 8 years, and if there's an affordable housing component, they allow us to exempt those properties for up to 12 years. So in Fairhaven and Barclay, you'll see us propose to you that we forward that exemption for the affordable housing projects. And that means that if you've got a 100-unit project, 20 of those units need to meet the requirements for affordable housing. And then the same program for affordable housing will be available in all of the districts. And then finally, for the permit fees and the system development charges, those that proposal is being recommended, for downtown and Old Town only. And the reason for that is we really need to target more than all of the urban villages because of the fiscal reality of the city's ability to provide those incentives. So we've got that fleshed out. We're tweaking just a little bit. We're still working on the eligibility of those projects, and that will also be coming to you on the 16th of November. The multifamily tax exemption ordinance will require a public hearing, and the other two will just be brought forward to you. So just a little update and heads up, info only.
Thank you, Tara. Committee members? Okay, thank you. If I recall, the two of them, the multifamily tax exemption and the fee reductions, they seem more straightforward than the B&O tax reduction. I think there were some questions on exactly how to exempt, or not how to exempt, how to, for business to be qualified as new, and you didn't want to create perverse incentives for churn in businesses. Have you given that consideration? Do you think maybe you have proposals to prevent unintended consequences on that one?
We do.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was for information only. We'll go on to the final item. Now I believe, Mrs. Stahlheim, you are back again. This is the 2014 Annual Performance Report for HUD entitlement grants, and the City of Bellingham has rolled that together with the annual report on our own Bellingham Housing Levy. And so this is a report on all those funds rolled together. Mr. Stahlheim?
Thank you. David Stahlheim, Block Grant Manager. So this is the annual report. Our Director, Rick Sepler, asked that we come back and report to you folks. We do this through Community Development Advisory Board, and we have a public hearing on it. But I think it's important also to keep the council in the loop on these things. And so this is talking about really our community investment, including the Bellingham Home Fund. And so as you look at the situation is that federal grants to the city have been declining. Our low-income needs are there, but the grants to the city have been declining. When you look at it from the perspective of inflation-adjusted numbers, back in 2003, we would have had almost $2.25 million. Today, HUD is at $1.1 million. Also on the table right now is one of the programs, the Home Investment Partnership Program, is proposing to slash that by 97%. And so that's on top of the 50% reduction about 4 years ago. So basically, there are some proposals in Congress right now to wipe out the federal Home Investment Partnership Program that would have a big impact on what we can deliver to the community. So what are some of the solutions? The community has really stepped up to invest in long-term resources, including the Bellingham Home Fund that was passed in 2012. Some of the key programs that we have that are in the annual report include creating new homes, preserving homes, community facilities, services, human and social services, and housing assistance. And as a result of those programs, we're starting to get a return on our investment. We're seeing that we're building kind of the strong branches. We're building the roots, extending the roots in our community through services and housing. And we're already getting a return on that investment. We've had quite a few first-time home buyers. We've preserved a lot of homes already. Just this past year, we finished the food bank expansion. I helped fund that. We didn't finish it. We helped fund it. And one of the great things is that the money that we're putting into these programs is investing other funds or leveraging other funds. For every dollar that we invest, we bring back $8 to $12 from other funding sources. It's a pretty important statistic as we look forward. But as we're investing in our future, we're looking at what are some of the new beginnings and resources and opportunities that we have as we look forward and what we've done. And some of the project beginnings that we've done that are just starting to seed right now include housing for seniors. Last year we funded an 80-unit senior housing project that in the next month, hopefully the Housing Trust Fund will award money for that right downtown. Farm worker housing just broke ground on Bakerview. Housing for veterans. Housing for offenders just re-entering from institutions. Housing for young adults and housing for those that are homeless at entry. Some of the beginnings we've also done are community buildings like the dental clinic, the family resource centers that we funded, and safe shelters, people from fleeing from domestic violence. Other project beginnings that we have are the homeless outreach team. We started that last year, but right now they're just getting going on getting great results out of that. And also working on with Mayor Kelly with the Emergency Low Barrier Housing Initiative that working on rolling out with the city. So as we're looking at the investment that we've done, I thought it was kind of interesting when you think about that chart of our investment from HUD, has gone the exact opposite. This is our local investment. These are the funds that we've been investing in housing and community development facilities over the years. And when you look at the 10-year period of the 90s, we're averaging around $237,000 annually. From 2000 to 2009, $633,000, and now we're almost up to $1.5 million investing in our community. And so we're going to start seeing some of the results of that, and that's because the investment that we get from the housing levy that was passed in 2012, that's allowed us to increase that. So that's a quick snapshot. You have lots of data and numbers, but I decided that it would be better that we don't go through all the data and numbers, but for those of you that may have gone through the full 28 pages of the annual report, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Committee members? Council members? Well, thank you. Pinky.
I do have a quick question. It says only $263,000 has not been committed to activities for this year. So is there a plan for those funds? Or
could you tell me what page you're on, maybe?
I'm on page...
Agenda bill.
The Agenda Bill 333 talks about the budget numbers.
Oh, okay. So yeah, when we do the action plan every year, we show you how much funding was available for the year and how much applications either were applied for or awarded. And so in some programs, we don't have all the funds committed. And so they stay in that fund and they become available for the next cycle. So if that's in the preservation program or the rental housing development, things like that, those are different funds that are available for the next cycle. So they're not committed, but they don't go away.
Thank you. That was 4 excellent and meaty items on our agenda. We're running a little bit behind schedule, but that concludes the Community and Economic Development Committee. The committee will adjourn and will resume as committee of the whole.